Triggered a year after we broke up. So this is from a female's perspective. Met a guy, Brady, on Tinder. He seemed really nice, funny, he was white British, Asian British mixed, it's relevant later. His family was quite well off and a little showy, which kinda turned me off. I was doing my masters when we met and he was unemployed, living at home. He made comments that my masters was just in biology. I don't think he liked that I was doing well. He also did a lot of things that I hadn't, that could be considered harsh, like skiing holidays, fencing, etc., and expressed some disappointment that I wasn't into that. I kinda blew it off. He never failed to mention how expensive his private school, that he graduated from 8 years prior, was. Also, he was convinced that my closest friend, who he had never met, was racist because he was half white, she was British Asian. I was like, what on earth, you don't know her. She's never mentioned anything like that. Anyway, I'm not mixed, but due to my complexion, a lot of people think that I am, and I was often mistaken for part of his family. He kind of fetishes this. Again, it didn't seem like a big deal then, so I ignored it. Apart from all this, it was all going pretty well for about a year. He got a job in the military, so then we began to do long distance. I needed to find a job and it wasn't looking good, needed a visa to stay. This put a lot of pressure on the relationship. Eventually I did get a job. I went to visit him at his military base. Something told me, girl, you need to snoop. I did. He was on all the dating sites and was calling me his ex, said things like I read a lot, am obsessed with animals, nerdy, and that I can't ski, apparently a deal breaker. All the things I thought he liked about me, he didn't. Left his ass. He tried to get me back but kinda was like, well, you are an immigrant, which is why he cheated and left it. Fast forward 11 months, not a word from Brady. Although I've heard on the grapevine he had a new girlfriend, it was hard for me getting over him as I felt bitter that I had stayed in this country for him but I'm dating someone new. Brady finds out, loses his damn mind. He rings me so much that my phone dies in 1-2 hours from all that vibrating. Threats interspersed with begging for me back in letters, phone calls, emails, even e-cards. I found out he's been reading all my mail. That's how he got my home address and my work address. He sent gifts. He must have got his brother to bring back this crisp type I love from South Africa. There was about 10 packaged and one was open. In it was a USB named Blackmail, with nudes of me and a video that was of him crying for an hour and a half. Boxes of sweets, sent a bundle of clothes including underwear. None of this was mine. He made A1 collages from puppy pictures in magazines, the kind of thing I made when I was 8. I have about 100 handwritten letters or cards. He called the guy I was dating and you can imagine what he said. She's a slag, she's not a virgin, etc. He contacts my mom saying the same thing. I think he liked the idea that I was a conservative Asian. I am Asian, but we aren't a conservative family, and that I would be disowned. Mom ignored him. He threatens to come to my house, sends me a picture of train tickets to where I live. I'm now scared to stay at home despite my 4 housemates and I am terrified. When his grandma died, I sent a sympathy card to his mom. This was like only a month into the stalking and I felt bad. At the time, I thought he would get over it. I had liked his parents and Nan. He made out like I had killed his Nan because he said he was busy calling me instead of being with her when she passed. He said that he failed out of military school because of me and that he would contact my grad school and get me fired from my PhD. He sent me the same threatening letters and pleading cards to my office. Many of them said how he would get me deported. I was a nobody and he was a British citizen, as if it was like a Nobel Prize and he would ruin my future. I was there legally. He was obsessed with the idea that I wouldn't get back with him because of his race and that I wanted a purebred because I liked golden retrievers. He said I was a racist, that it would come back to haunt me and I would have no future. None of this was true. I didn't want to be with him, but that was because he was a cheater. I thought he was a racist or weirdly obsessed with my race and he was harassing the life out of me. I had done nothing wrong, but I was still terrified. It was back in my parents' home country. This is the kind of thing that could get you fired. I went to London with my dad and family. My sister's boyfriend's sister put up a picture of us on Instagram. She wasn't private. 3 minutes later, Brady had seen it and made a new account to message me saying I'm coming there. So now he's watching my sister's boyfriend's sister, who wasn't close enough to have him blocked. She probably didn't know that this was even happening at the time. Every time I blocked a number or account, he got a new one. I didn't do anything for 6 months. I felt so guilty. I felt bad for his parents, worried he would lose his job, and I was scared of him. I felt bad to worry my parents. This was their biggest fear. I'm 10,000 miles away and some crackhead is after me. Eventually, I started bawling in front of everyone at work when yet another letter arrived. I was too scared to go anywhere. I was terrified of unknown numbers. My supervisor marched me to the police. I told them everything and they said you have 3 options. A. We can do something about it now, but in courts it can take over a year and you will probably have to see him. B. We call and give him an off-the-books warning. C. Nothing. I said, let me think about it for 2 days. I tried before to call his parents before, but he always managed to intercept. I found out his dad had got a new job through LinkedIn after previously working from home. I called him at the office and I told him everything. Well, his parents had thought that all this time we were still together and that I didn't like them anymore, hence why I hadn't come to see them. I said if there's anything else, I will go back to the police. His dad apologized profusely and said, obviously I don't want you to go to the police, but I understand and I will do my best with Brady. I didn't hear from him for about a year, then sporadically heard emails from him asking for some personal details, probably under the disguise that they were needed for his job. You have to disclose access and he probably had to explain what happened since I did go to the police. I replied to some but not others. I've communicated maybe 3 times over the last 4 years, very brief, bare minimum. If the military really did need those details, they could call me themselves. Fast forward, it's now 4 years later and I'm on a holiday with my current partner at my mom's place in my mom's home country. Christmas Day arrives and there's a beautiful painting of my sister and I from my favorite photo of us delivered by DHL to my mom's address. It's amazing and arrived on Christmas Day. We aren't big on gifts, so naturally now the whole family is arguing about who did the painting and why they wouldn't admit it. The next day we're driving to the beach and I say, I hope it wasn't crazy Brady who sent that painting. And everyone's like, no, don't be silly, it must have been Dad and he forgot he's done it. Well, joke's on me. A week later, he Facebook messages my mother asking if we got his gift. Crazy Brady, hope to never hear from you again. Let's not meet ever. Beauty school sociopath. Precursor. I've aged since then. I do not fall for these tricks as easily as I did then. I still hope for the good in people, but I usually doubt it's there for a while. I went to a beauty school just after high school, so I was just learning what it was like to be an adult, work, go to school, and socialize all at the same time. If you've ever gone to beauty school, you know the hours are pretty lengthy, and it's a lot of work in a short amount of time. You also know that you're mostly crammed with a lot of women of different ages and few boys. If there's a straight man in school and he's even mildly attractive, obviously considering you're attracted to that type of person, most women at school are just so at all because it's the only male person we are seeing during most of our weeks. That takes me to Dave. A few years older than me, tall, drives a Ducati to school, mysterious and handsome. Every girl was always putting on a little extra makeup, turning their hips towards him, flirting when he was around. He was cute, quiet, and always knew what to say. I wasn't as interested in catching his eye till he randomly asked me to meet up with him for a bite one day after school. I was single, needing to experience dating for the first time, and he didn't seem that bad to hang out with. Things started off very sweet and genuine. He would send goodnight texts, joke with me at school, and even generally seemed like he wanted to hang out more and more. We would go to bars and he knew everyone, so I could just get right in. I was underage at the time. We would go eat, see shows, two-step, drink. I felt like I was starting to feel like an adult, enjoying the life and being wooed by a handsome, slightly older man. We would drive around on his bike, he would take me to nice quiet dinners, always offered to pay and even did little things like hold his arm out when I walked downstairs or off a curb. I would never experience this type of gentleman before, but as quickly as the sweet dates came, so did a very weird, calculated and controlling behavior. He would start to ask why I didn't smile with my teeth, Was it because I was embarrassed of myself? He would sit behind me working at school and taunt me about how slow I was. He would say things like, "Don't sit like that," or "Say things that way. That's not what ladies do, and I'm a lady, right? Don't wear that lipstick, it is trashy." But I guess maybe I was being inappropriate? Maybe he's right, I should act more like an adult than a child, be better at school, look more like an adult. He brought me to his house one night, a place he rented a room from. Suddenly, this stoic Edward Cullen type turned into a person I didn't recognize. Outside of the random mood shift, his room was filled with clothing and garbage, like old Gatorade bottles filling the floors. There was a TV and a bed. Of all the things I could really make out in the room, he brushed dirt off his bed for me to sit down. We hung out for a while and he oddly confessed he never brushes his teeth. Okay, well, looking at this room, I could believe that. He also mentioned that he just bought new clothes when he needed them and never washed the dirty ones, just left them there. This was all in the first 2 to 3 weeks. Kinda red flag if you ask me. The lights were off at one point and we were watching a show, and I see a light like his cell phone right outside of the window behind the TV. I jump and get his attention, but he had to have seen. He brushes it off, saying it must just be a roommate, though I notice he's texting someone at the same time. I let it go for the night, eventually go home, but still uncomfortable. Then the phone calls start happening and the stories of his ex. They'd lived together, she was 10 years older than him and had a 6-year-old kid. She was crazy. If he and I would hang out, I would suddenly start getting calls from an unknown number the minute I walked in my door. They would ring till my voicemail got them, and no one would say a word till the message ran out of time. They would happen every 10 minutes for 3 or so hours. I asked him about this, if it was him, and he said it may just be his crazy ex. But how would she have my number? He would say, "Well, I had to give her some of her things and she stole my phone at one point, must have taken your number." Still, the gentle, manly dates would happen, and the gifts. Oh, the gifts. Sending roses and coffee to my work, showing up with massage and spa packages every week. We still saw each other at beauty school almost daily, and he would be kind, but it was always hush-hush until it was outside of school. I was torn. Is this person lying, or is this the first kind person to want to date me? Maybe he just has some flaws and a crazy ex? Then the texts and Facebook messages started coming, clarifying it was her. He told me about your fucked up life and secrets you've told him. I know he just saw you. I know you were just at his house. I was outside his window looking in. Your red dress was nice. He laughs about you, poor you, just a whore little girl, and shit like that over and over. I would block her, then she would have friends send me the same BS. She freaked me out and he always denied it and apologized for her behavior. Then there were days he wouldn't show up for school and she would text me during the days saying they were together, sending pictures of him. I tried to confront him, but he always denied having anything to do with her and repeating that she wanted to ruin his life. Then she started going to my work, telling my coworkers she was my friend and would color things on kids' menus like Boy Slay 666 plus Dave, love her, and tells them she wanted me to have it. She would send me a random picture of him in a booth at my work and I would put the pieces together when I got there and got her notes, asking my coworkers where she was sitting and what she looked like. It was gross and embarrassing, let alone scary. My car was broken into at school and nothing was taken from it but a bill that had my address on it. I was then so scared I would come home at any point in time and she would start calling over and over as soon as I closed the door behind me. I felt trapped. She would call my work and school saying she was my mom and try to get more info on me, or call them as a customer trying to get me fired. My roommates finally kicked me out because they were rightfully freaked, so I turned to the police. They put me in contact with a detective who I handed all of the calls, texts and messages plus notes she left at my work. I never answered the phone or responded to a single message from her. I had hundreds of calls, texts for at least a month. They came in every day from the same number. I never blocked that number after the first few were blocked, so I could keep a log on all the attempts. Plus I kept a journal of every incident leading up to me coming to the police, just in case. I watched a lot of crime docs. He told me there was nothing he could do to trace the number back to a specific person, and since she hadn't threatened my physical safety, his hands were tied. The very next day he calls me and is furious, telling me he can't help me if I'm harassing her back. I was confused, and when I asked what the hell he meant, he said, "You're calling a mother non-stop throughout the night, terrifying her and her kid. Because I was the 20-year-old and she was 36, of course he's going to believe the adult, but I never called her." He asked me to come to his office to show me his evidence he has against me. She forwarded him tons of texts saying things like, "You're a little whore cunt who I hope loses their kid," and I just broke down. I would never say something like that to someone, and I know I didn't send these tens of texts, especially overnight when I had school the next day. He didn't believe me and dismissed me. He ultimately turned against me and was now on her side. This was crushing. I broke things off for good with Dave, basically told him to fuck the fuck off. We still had to go to school together and he was a complete dick. I embarrassed myself in front of my friends defending him so long, my work, my school, who I had to beg to make sure this girl didn't come around again, and a detective who ultimately didn't believe a word I said just to get some peace. My friends were tired of seeing me scared, stressed, and constantly talking about this weird situation happening to me. I was over it all. She finally left me alone once I moved, got a new car, new phone, deleted social media, but it still freaks me out that we all live in the same town. She messaged me a few years ago from a different account when I was back on social media and said she was sorry, that she was manipulated by Dave and that they did this to many girls. This was disturbing and gut-wrenching to me. Did a mother of a 6-year-old really have nothing better to do than play fucked up games with a sociopath? Maybe two sociopaths together, I guess. I don't know. Dave and your ex, let's not ever meet again. So those were the stories for today's video. If you enjoyed this and want to watch more videos, then click here for more stories or go check out the info cards in the right corner for more videos.